Time now for the Educated Retirement Show with your host, Jay Kaplan. Jay discusses reverse mortgages and can answer your questions at 951-922-3532. Call lines are open at 951-922-3532. And now, here's Jay.
And welcome to the Educated Retirement Radio show here on KMET, 1490 AM. On this Memorial Day weekend. So if you're going to be out driving this weekend, be careful because, well, I need every listener I can get. No, just be careful. Enjoy yourselves. And let's, of course, remember why it is Memorial Day. But here at KMET, where we contemplate retirement, how to best prepare for retirement, how to best stay retired. Let me turn this glare down a little bit. So there we go. And we have a couple of great guests in a way today. Rand Brenner, who has just this mind-boggling idea about which he's done quite a bit, and everybody except me kind of knows about it, except for what I've learned on this show, because he's been here a couple times before, licensing your ideas. And then at 4:30, we're going to run some of Ron Siegel's Home and Finance show, where he and I talk about the myths of reverse mortgage. But he talks more than that. What the reverse mortgage part is a few minutes, but I kept a lot of him in it also because, you know, all of my guests, I always have them give their own contact information for themselves, and there's no difference here. And I let him give us some news and some statistics. So I am going to skip any of that I had down here. And the future, what about it? It is now, which means you got to plan now for the future. And knowledge is power. And our phone number, again, is 866-955-2233, 866-955-2233. And, of course, our website is the same name as this show, theeducatedretirement.com. It's also this one, drheckham.com, www.drhecm.com for Doctor of the Heckham Home Equity Conversion. And there's lots of good stuff you can see on that website. I usually yap about it, but I'm not going to now because we got a lot to talk about. We've got two guests instead of one. So let me get straight into the other shows that I always like to give a shout out to here on KMET. And of course, Let Grandpa Speak. Oh, I forgot to call him after the show. Anyway, I'll call him probably tomorrow. And his show is here every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And except for the great vacation he took last, 2 and 3 weeks ago. And it is always the best way to start your weekend in the best mood you can be in. And he was nominated for 5 Emmys. He's won 3, and he's also a real master at barbecue beef ribs. And don't forget the West Coast Business Review with Daryl McCants, who's won no Emmys. And then again, neither have I. And he, like I always say, he is a great master at eating barbecue ribs, beef or otherwise, and anything else for that matter. And he, of course, is a repeat offender on this show, and he always gives a plug for us. We always give a plug for him. And he's on the show along with Bill Morris of UCI, who did like 20,000 sit-ups, all the money, at one time, that is. Guinness Book of World Records. He's also did a great TED Talk, which, you should look up if you watch TED Talks or even if you don't. And he's also been a guest on this show. And again, don't forget the Ron Siegel Home and Finance show. And he's on every single Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. So good way to be driving home if you're still driving home after this show, which in many cases you are. So let me ask that question again. When does your home become an asset? When does your home loan become an asset? We know your home is an asset, but, it's only a paper asset until you do something about it. And my day job is at the Loan Source. My NMLS number is 384565. And Department of Real Estate license number 792630. And as you know, I do not sell real estate, but I like to stay on top of those things. And I've got lots of good friends that will tie you into any answers for questions that you may want to be looking at in as far as that's concerned. So let's get straight to our what are we celebrating today other than that we're alive? National Road Trip Day is May 27th, which is pretty close to today, no? Yeah, okay. The Friday before Memorial Day is the kickoff of the summer road trip season. Well, that's kind of true. I always remember it was when I was in school. It's when, it meant that summer vacation was coming soon. And millions of Americans hit the road each year. And since the pandemic, many more will be taking outdoor focus trips, having good music, audiobooks, podcasts to listen to. This is while you're driving. And we listen to a lot of audiobooks, podcasts, of course, about UFOs, Bigfoot, and other very important subjects like that. And, so these are some of the most important parts for a successful road trip, as well as good snacks and drinks. So find great places to eat on the way because, you usually have cleaner bathrooms and that kind of good thing. And even truck stops themselves are a lot of fun. And they can be an adventure all into themselves. Most of them have like buffet lunches, dinners, breakfasts, things like that. And just, huge places. So let's pack up, fuel up, and stock up. Rack up tunes like Going Up the Country, Route 66. What is that, Route? Oh, that's right. We just ordered the Rolling Stones live from this little Mocambo in Canada, where there was actually, and Route 66 is one of the songs they sing. And there was about, I think the club holds maybe a total of 300 people. And they were announced as an opening act for a Canadian group. And it was advertised as, because they didn't want too many people in there, as the Cockroaches. And the Cockroaches turned out to be the Rolling Stones. A little dig, I think, at the Beatles, but it's pretty funny anyway. Anyway, Route 66, Born to be Wild. Plan ahead, tend to vehicle maintenance, and plot your course. And I tended to, even though I'm not going anywhere in the car, filled up the tires yesterday with the amount of air supposed to be and fell over. And I did, as I was grabbing NASA Nellie for stability, pulled her over too. So it was a fun trip, but it's not the trip we were planning to take. So let's honor America's favorite sandwich and usher in the grilling season. Okay, that means that it is International Hamburger Day. So it is said that Oscar Weber, Bilby, Bilby, was the first person to serve a real hamburger in 1891. And I know there's some argument about who invented the hamburger, but Hamburg in Germany has something to do with that. Anyway, he served ground beef on homemade buns at a 4th of July party near Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was a huge hit. This gave Tulsa the claim of the real birthplace of the hamburger. And how about National Brisket Day, May 28th? So if you are a meat eater, chances are you enjoy a great yummy brisket. What's the best way? Well, we would have to ask Sean because he's our chef. But smoked and pickled and turned into pastrami is another great way. So it's a day to prepare that delicious brisket, which is popular not only in America, but popular in Britain, Germany, Jewish cooking, Korean cuisine, Hong Kong, New Zealand, and the Pakistani menu. Ways of cooking and seasoning differs, but it's delicious cooked anyway here, as long as it's here on Earth. If it's not here on Earth, we're going to have to check with NASA Nelly, who's coming on now anyway, to talk about eating hamburgers in outer space. And NASA Nelly is going to talk about the Orfeo Angelucci alien abduction incident, and followed by the Emilson alien abduction case. So let's give way. Do I hear there are her retro rockets, so take it away, NASA Nelly.
On May 24th, 1952, most of us go about our daily lives as a routine of family or work. Usually nothing out of the ordinary happens. But for Orfeo Matthew Angelucci, aerospace worker, family man, and average citizen, he was about to have his life changed forever. Orfeo was driving home from work, not knowing he was going to have a conversation with a brotherly extraterrestrial. The conversation would later reveal the secret of our planet and what he and the rest of us must do to ensure a peaceful fate. Now, to start from the beginning, Orfeo claimed that he suffered from poor health and extreme nervousness for most of his life. Terrified of thunderstorms, he moved to California from New Jersey and took a job at Lockheed Aircraft in Burbank, the same plant fellow contactee George Van Tassel was employed at. On this particular drive home, he saw a saucer hovering, approached it, and a voice spoke words, reassuring him they meant no harm, that they had been watching him for years. The entities that spoke to him materialized a potion to drink, which he did. Orfeo was told that he was the first human they had ever contacted. 2 months later, a second contact occurred, and this time he entered the saucer, with which he said was like a soap bubble. The interior was iridescent. Orfeo saw a giant mothership drift past a porthole and even experienced missing time episode. He eventually remembered living for a week in the body of a space brother named Neptune on a large asteroid, which was the remains of a destroyed planet. Orfeo said a blinding light projected him beyond space and time, and his life became crystal clear, and that he came to understand the mystery of life. He had a third encounter, a face-to-face meeting with some of the space people. They told of an impending war on this earth that would be followed by a new age of brotherhood. Later that month, he would tell his story at a flying saucer convention held in Los Angeles, then wrote The Secret of the Saucers. Orfeo became a celebrity among those people who followed contactees, alien abduction stories, spending a decade on the lecture circuit, and passed away in 1993. From his book, he wrote, I had the uncomfortable feeling that they studied me, and that they knew every thought in my mind, everything I'd ever done, and a vast amount about me that I didn't even know myself.
Oh, and just to explain a thing or two, this is not at the same time, but the same place that George Van Tassel had built his Integratron, which is a pretty fascinating place to go. You know, and I should put that on the things to do list, because it's out in Landers, not all that far, and pretty fascinating. And anyway, we'll get on now to the second story, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. May 10th, 1978, in the quiet village of Milician, Poland, farmer 71-year-old Jan Wolski was out driving a horse-drawn cart near his property when he said he was jumped by two short green humanoid entities with webbed hands and about 5 feet tall. The beings jumped onto his cart and sat next to him and started to speak in a strange language. He said they were talking in thin voices. I didn't understand any of it. He drove his cart with the two beings aboard to a clearing where he said a large object about the size of a bus was hovering in the air. I tied my horse and got off and went after them toward that machine. The object was all white with no notable features and generated a humming noise. An elevator-like platform attached to the craft descended to the ground. Jan said that he was taken aboard the ship with two other beings. The interior was described as black with a grayish tint similar to the creature's outfits. He claimed that he was then examined with a tool that resembled two saucers. After the exam, the beings then ate and offered him something like icicles, but he refused. Wolfsby returned home to his family and notified them of what just had happened, urging them to come see the flying craft. He notified his sons, who called to the other neighbors, and together they went to investigate the site. The grass where the craft had been was trampled down. His sons claimed that there were even footprints left behind. There were witnesses that claimed that they had seen a bus-like craft hover over a barn and then climbed high into the sky and then vanished. The aftermath for his family was unfortunate, as shortly after several family members fell ill. One of his sons died under mysterious circumstances and was found dead in a nearby forest. An odd memorial was constructed in Emilcion in 2005 to commemorate the alien abduction of Jan Wolski. Very reminiscent of the monolith from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey, this structure has a huge metal cube balanced on the top of a pillar commemorating an alien abduction that whisked away a local farmer in a UFO for an exam and lunch. And it reads, on May 10, 1978, in Emilcion, a UFO object landed. The truth will astonish us in the future. The idea for it came from the Nautilus Foundation, which examines bizarre events such as the one in this village with the support of local authorities. Every year in May, believers gather around it and say phrases like, I can feel the energy. Also very odd is a time capsule is buried next to the monument, not to be opened until the year 3011.
Now, I got one more picture here, and Nellie, before you take off, could you give us a little background? Because you know what it is.
That has nothing to do with this story.
No, I understand, but I think this does have to do with a not an abduction, but a meeting of a extraterrestrial, and one that I'm not saying I believe completely, but this one is really good. So tell us a little bit about, well, you remember who it is, and
not sure.
You know, because my name is, but well, you know, his daughter wrote this book, and if you saw Mothman Prophecies, you will know that that is in there,
right,
and a part of that. But we'll talk, you know, maybe Nellie can fill us in next week or thereafter, because that is very fascinating.
Alien with the big smile and the weird face.
We'll get into more of that. So let's listen for your retro rockets, and then maybe we'll be, there she goes. And thank you, Nellie, for your time here on Earth. So again, we're going to go right into, we got plenty to talk about business-wise and ways to make money, really. I mean, so let's get into some horror people here. And no, I'm not talking about taxes. I'm talking about Christopher Lee, who was born May 27th, which is also pretty close to today, in 1922, and he earned his wings in 2015. So Sir Christopher Frank Carandini Lee. Huh?
Today is the 26th.
Yeah, I know that. Okay. That was a joke. It was an English actor, who starred in over 278 roles in films and TV, and was an author and singer. Now, singer was news to me before any of this digging into his past, but he often played villains, and appeared as Count Dracula in 7 Hammer horror films. And once he moved to Hollywood, he was already good friends with horrible Vincent Price and Peter Cushing. And Christopher was born in London. His parents divorced when he was 6 years old. Later, his mother married a banker and uncle of 007 Ian Fleming. So let's attend Lee. He attended private schools and performed his first role in a school play as Rumpelstiltskin, and he continued interest in theater growing up as he got older. He had poor math skills, good for him, and was a passable rackets player, not a racketeer, and fencer. He did not do well in other sports like hockey, football, or boxing, also like me. After completing a military career, his military career, he was asked by family, why don't you become an actor? Initially, he was told he was too tall to be an actor, and he said, it's like saying you are too short to play the piano. Makes sense in a way, or doesn't make sense as much as the first, you're too tall. I thought, right, I'll show you. He said, I didn't know anything about working in front of a camera, so I watched, listened, and I learned. So when the time came, I was ready, oddly enough, to play a character who said nothing, the creature in The Curse of Frankenstein. And it was Hammer's first color horror film, first of their Frankenstein series, and Lee's first big film. Before that film, Lee did several uncredited roles or one-liner parts. It was also the first time Lee starred with Peter Cushing, and they later became partners, appeared together in over 20 films. And Lee won the Fangoria Horror Hall of Fame Award, Jules Verne Lifetime Achievement Award, and the Life Career Award from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, to name a few. Did you know? No, I didn't. Lee was trained as an opera singer and was getting into heavy metal. Well, that's definitely the same thing, such as music of Black Sabbath. And he even released his first, full heavy metal album in 2010 at 88 years old. I'd like to see that album and hear it. Anyway, and won the Spirit of Hammer Award from the Metal Hammer Golden God ceremony, alongside other winning bands like Demonic Resurrection, Five Finger Death Punch, and Machine Head, among others. And Lee was interested in the history of public executions. Wow, romantic. And reportedly knew the names of every official public executioner employed by England all the way back to the 15th century. He turned down Donald Pleasant's roles in Halloween and later said it was the biggest mistake he made. Donald Pleasance was good, and he turned out to have great roles anyway. He also turned down the role of Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars that went to his good friend Peter Cushing, who was pretty wonderful in that. Lee was one of the judges for the 1995 Miss World beauty pageant, and we're about to give a list of his films, but I think it's probably break time, is it not? And must is that it is. So let's give way to the station break, and we'll see you. You'll hear me hopefully back here on most of these same stations. Remember that saying from when I was a kid? Anyway, see you soon. I sure like that tune. Anyway, our guest seems to have been abducted. Is that right, Nassanelli? You think he's abducted?
Yeah.
He'll either join us later today or on a future show nearby, because he's a good guy, and I know that it must be a good reason or whatever. But we'll get to him. Don't worry. So what we were talking about was a list of Christopher Lee films, and The Curse of Frankenstein, 1957. Oh, let's get pictures first of all, because I get him and the other guy mixed up all the time. Mm-hmm. And there he be, looking very serious. And see how serious he looks there? And, oh, look at this, quote, headshot, where he's trying to look really cool. I guess he is cool. Anybody that's been in that many films is cool. Anybody that's played Dracula and all of Frankenstein stuff has got to be cool, even without the teeth showing.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So then there was Corridors of Blood, 1958. Oh, first of all, The Curse of Frankenstein, 1957, directed by Terence Fisher. Corridors of Blood, 1958, directed by Robert Day. Oh, and here's a twofer, Corridors of Blood. King of the Monsters, it says. And, well, there it is. Anyway, there you go. And The Mummy, 1959, directed again by Terence Fisher. Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Remember that movie, Prince of Darkness, by Carpenter? And I like the music to that, too. That's pretty cool. Anyway, that's a different subject. Dracula, Prince of Darkness, 1966. And there he is, baring his teeth. And this is, of course, widescreen edition. The Man with the Golden Gun, you know, that was Guy Hamilton and a 007. Lord of the Rings, well, we all know that one. Fellowship of the Ring, 2001. Lee played Saruman.
Oh, you're talking about someone else now. No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry.
You go back into outer space.
I'm confused.
No. I see you get the two mixed up, just like I do. And Lee played Saruman the White. And here's a really cool picture of him really having fun in that role. So that was good. And of course, you know, well, we don't need to show you, but you know, that's just the outside big deal, is that. A couple of movies that we don't have listed here that I know he was in. The Wicker Man. Yeah. And was he in Sleepy Hollow?
Uh-huh.
Who was I? Somehow I don't remember.
I
him.
love that movie.
I know you do, but there he is, Tim Burton-ness. And
he was in this one too.
And he was in Alice in Wonderland, another Tim Burton-y thing. So okay, and then well, we'll save that one for the. And you know, he was in that. He was in. I think he was in all three of those in the trilogy. So, who else is? You know, we should have put his partner next, but we didn't. But we'll get him anyway. Back into the horror genre, like that genre. Vincent Price was born on this day, 1922, and left us in 1993. Vincent Leonard Price Jr. was an American actor, and he was best known for his performances in horror films, although he wasn't that way all along, but that's what we do remember, because I think he enjoyed those most of all. He appeared on radio, stage, and television and starred in more than 100 films, and he was born in St. Louis, Missouri. His father was the president of the National Candy Company. Well, we got another famous person with a big-time father, but that's coming later. And his grandfather invented Dr. Price's baking powder, the first cream of tartar-based baking powder, and it secured the family's fortune. Vincent graduated from Yale University. I didn't. Where he worked on the campus humor magazine, The Yale Record. After teaching for a year, he was drawn to the theater, appeared on stage professionally in 1934, and began performing with Orson Welles' Mercury Theater, which until we did the research here, did not know that. And I thought I was pretty familiar with Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater. He started out in films as a character actor and established himself in the film Laura. His first venture into the horror genre was in Tower of London with Boris Karloff. And let's take a couple of quick pictures. This, of course, looks just like him. Again, posing for a headshot. Okay. Not exactly too horrible, but that's okay. A little bit younger there. Well, he's a lot younger than he is now. This, you can tell he's in there, but wow, it's much different picture here.
Mhm.
I think he looks pretty cool. I like that hat too, the brim, as you would say. And of course, I think the picture that shows him the most, as we most remember him, with the little mustache, is right there. And there he is, getting ready to kill somebody, to cover them with wax, or to drop them into a vat of acid. There he be. And we all know Vincent for those great horror films. But did you know that he studied art history at Yale and was an art collector? I didn't know that part of it. He was a commissioner of the Indian Arts and Crafts Board within the United States Department of the Interior and worked as an art consultant at Sears Roebuck. And that's when Sears still existed. He and his wife donated 90 pieces from their private collection, as well as a large amount of money to establish the Vincent Price Art Museum in East Los Angeles College. And admission is still free and open to the public, which we need to get to because that's not really all that far.
Mhm.
But reservations are recommended. Their donors include the Getty Foundation and the Andy Warhol Foundation for the visual arts, amongst a bunch of other stuff. And did you know Price was notoriously superstitious? No, I didn't know. He kept a horseshoe, a crucifix, and a mezuzah. That's called insurance on his front door. As growing up, we always used to have a mezuzah on the front door, and I would always tell people who asked that it was the doorbell button, but that's another story. He had his own mail order book club, wow, in the 20s, called Vincent Price Books, specializing in mystery and detective novels. Vincent was also a gourmet cook and authored several cookbooks and cooked for many of his co-stars. He even, in 1971, hosted his own cooking program on British television. And one of his memorable cooking demonstrations was on the Johnny Carson show in 1975 when he prepared a mouth-watering trout wrapped in foil. I bet the foil didn't taste too good, but I guess anybody could make it taste good. It was him. With lemon and white wine, zucchini with dill and scallions, cooking it in the dishwasher. I guess it was a clean dish anyway, as long as you forego the there was no soap. And the rinse cycle, the dishwasher will steam your dinner to perfection. Okay. That's kind of the first sous vide type of cooking that came around. Thank you to our hero here, Vincent Price. Johnny and other guest singer, Edie Gourmet, said it was the best fish they ever tasted. Truly a memorial show, and memorable. I guess it's memorial too now that he's gone. And his art collecting Mad Chef also loved the Mad Chef also loved opera. Vincent Price was awarded the Life Career Award by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, and was nominated for 3 Grammy Awards, 2 of them for spoken word performances. In short, here is a list of some of his films. Laura, which was a great film. Believable? I don't know, but I mean, this was before the big time horror stuff. And this, of course, Clifton Webb, just ran away with this one. This is so cool. Whether you want to believe the story or whatever, Clifton Webb was magnificent. That was directed by Otto Preminger, House of Wax, 1953, and I believe that was 3D. And the director was Andre de Toth. The Fly, 1958, was directed by Kurt Newman. And there, as God is my witness, I saw the thing, the buzz on the fly. Okay. House on Haunted Hill was directed by one of our great heroes, William Castle.
This is the redo.
You know what? I got plenty of them. Couldn't find it, but found the redo. I found that the redo was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Also, the house, the exterior of the house, was used in House on Haunted Hill. The exterior and the interior, I believe, was used extensively in Blade Runner. And it's a place when I was in college we used to go to find a quiet place in the hills. And that was a little bit, you tried to scare your date a little bit too, and parked out in front of that house. I think it was a Frank Lloyd Wright house. I think it's called the Hollyhock. Either Hollyhock is that one or the one down in the park also on Vermont. But, we'll have to check. I mean, if you get a chance to drive up there, or if you're on Vermont anywhere and you look up and, you do see the planetarium, you will see House on Haunted Hill also. Then there was The Tingler, which I know we've got a copy of, directed by, again, our hero, William Castle. And with The Tingler, he had buzzers under the seats. And if you remember the movie Matinee, which I think was a Joe Dante film, and what's his name? Goodman.
Goodman.
Actually played William Castle. Great. A lot of fun. The Bat, 1959. Crane Wilbur was the director. Pit and the Pendulum, 1961. Directed by Roger Corman. There it is. And the Abominable Dr. Phibes, 1971, directed by Robert Fust. There was also a, one of those came after. What do we call those again? A sequel. Not quite as good, but the Dr. Phibes Rises Again. The Abominable Dr. Phibes is a little different than some of the others. I think this film, Dr. Phibes, is brilliant. I mean, really brilliant, outlandish beyond anything that's just about done today or whatever. I think it was on Svengoolie a couple of weeks ago. I think they cut some of the gorier parts out, or either that or the first few times I watched it, I thought it was more gorier than it was.
And this one was on too.
Yeah, that Dr. Phibes, that was last week on Svengoolie. What's on tomorrow, do you know?
House on Haunted Hill.
Oh, the original one? House on Haunted Hill. If you're
Tomorrow night.
if you're a fan, Svengoolie, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on Me TV, House on Haunted Hill. And of course, Svengoolie gives so much background. That's what I really like about him. Other he is kind of ridiculous, but he gives a lot of background to a lot of different things like that. But you know what tonight is, and that's what we're really celebrating. We should have put that at the beginning of the show.
Right. I forgot.
Tonight is Stranger Things comes back. It's on right now. And you are forgiven if you leave this show, even if you're driving. Turn on Netflix, like we're going to do pretty soon, and start rolling with season 4 of Stranger Things. And as I've said before, the working title of Stranger Things was Montauk, because Montauk, New York is supposedly where things like the CIA's, what are we going to call that? What do we call that, Kathleen? The name of they were doing it's just. Yeah, right.
Awesome. Yeah, I know.
It's so close. It's right here. MK Ultra and beyond, where it is said that they would take or kidnap maybe 100,000 male children, young ones, or teenagers, and
brainwash them.
Yeah, brainwash them. It is said that Saran was one of those people that was one of those children. But they had time travel experiments, and it's also said, some of this rumor, of course, that they were able to crack the code into other universes and that kind of thing. And that's where on Stranger Things, the Upside Down is another universe. Anyway, enough for that right now. But who else was born he was born yesterday, was Peter Cushing, May 26th, 1913, and he earned his wings in 1994. So let's start off with some pictures, and that's all right, just hand me the pile or whatever. And here he is in full color. Looks like it almost looks colorized, doesn't it? In any case, there he is. And another one, please.
That's the wrong guy.
Well, that's all right. I'll take it anyway.
Yeah.
Here we go. Another one. This is obviously a headshot for trying to get hired. Whoop. Another quick one. And much later, but before now. And here's a picture I forgot to show you before of Ceramon. I thought this was pretty cool, but I forgot to show it to you. But there it is anyway. Okay, so Peter Welton Cushing was an English actor with a career spanning 6 decades and appeared in more than 100 films, as well as television, stage, and radio roles. And he performed in the Hammer production horror films from 1950 to 1970. And this is just a little grouping of some of them that we got. Actually, there's 6 of them here. Creatures, The World Forgot, The Revenge of Frankenstein, Maniac, Never Take Candy from a Stranger, The Snorkel, and Die, My Darling. And he's probably in most all of those. And he, like I said, Peter was born in the English country of Surrey. His father was a quantity surveyor, and his mother was the daughter of a carpet merchant. His mother had dressed Peter in the first few years in dresses. Oh, cool. Wearing long hair and curls and bows of pink ribbon, and many mistook him for a girl. No wonder he ended up in horror films. And when he was young, he saw a stage production of Peter Pan, and it set in motion his interest in acting. He was a fan of comics and toy collectibles, and earned money by staging puppet shows for family members. He was a poor student, good for him, in most subjects, and had little attention span. Now that's me. I was poor in all subjects until college, and then I was really good in the biology that I never did anything with. But anyway, little attention span, that's like me, attention deficit disorder like myself, along with fair grades, and many times his brother did his homework for him. I didn't have a brother, or believe me, I would have asked. Peter was inspired by Western films and participated in school theater, attending a music and drama school in London. He worked odd jobs around the theater, selling refreshments, and worked as an assistant manager. Years later, he sought after a film career in the United States in 1939, and his official film debut was a small part in The Man in the Iron Mask, which has been done, God, how many times? While in the famous Schwab's drugstore, he learned that producer Hal Roach was looking for an English actor for a Laurel and Hardy film. Cushing pursued that acting job and got the role. Remember Schwab's, and who was supposedly
Lana Turner.
Lana Turner, and I mean that was a big thing back there. There ain't no such thing as Schwab's anymore. And he got that role. What's that?
What is it now? Do you
I don't know. I've been by that.
Yeah.
We have to take a look.
Yeah.
Began his dream of becoming a great actor. It started right there. Peter Cushing won the Fangoria Chainsaw Award, the Fangoria Horror Hall of Fame in 1994, and the BAFTA TV Award in 1956, and was nominated for the Saturn Award for his role in Star Wars. So Cushing was known for many different horror films, playing roles like Van Helsing, Victor Frankenstein, but also played Sherlock Holmes and even Doctor Who. And did you know Cushing collected model soldiers, hand painted many, owning over 5,000? And he was also a stamp collector. Where did we see all those soldiers? That was at that barn or that place, the what's it called, the barn or something like that. Big antique mall in
San Juan Capistrano.
San Juan
Yeah.
Capistrano,
Yeah.
which we're talking about taking the train to either tomorrow or Sunday. And we also, there's a big, in Cambria, remember, there's a whole store dedicated
Yes.
to that.
Yes.
So he was an artist, drawing and painting with watercolors. And Peter, at one point, had a contract as a silk scarf designer doing the painting with the textile manufacturing. And Cushing had a great interest in ornithology, the study of birds. Like I said, we have several security cameras around the house that are only turned at bird feeding areas. He turned down Donald Pleasant's role in Halloween. Didn't we talk about that with us? So everybody turned it down for a while. And like his friend Christopher Lee did, he was also considered the role for Obi-Wan Kenobi that went to Alec Guinness, who was perfect in it.
Yeah.
And of course, he still had a good role in that anyway. After returning from acting, he wrote an wrote and illustrated children's books.
Mm-hmm.
And a book of Lewis Carroll style humor. And he and his best friend, Christopher Lee, were huge fans of Looney Tunes, where I appeared most of the time. And they were once asked to leave a theater showing Sylvester and Tweety cartoons because they were laughing too loud. Good for them. And I got a couple of minutes here, so here's a short list of Peter Cushing films. Curse of Frankenstein. And I showed you those are mostly, a lot of those in that thing. Directed by Terence Fisher. Abominable Snowman, 1957, by a pretty well-known director, Val Guest. Let me tell you something about this. This is actually a fairly serious film. There's a lot of Bigfoot and Snowman and Yeti films that are out there that are fun, but this one is actually pretty serious, and it's very good. That's okay, Kathleen. That's it. The Mummy, 1959, directed by Terence Fisher again. The Gorgon, directed by Terence Fisher, 64. The Who and Daleks, 1965, directed by Gordon Fleming. And here is my Dalek. And what did he say? I remember. Destroy what?
Exterminate.
Exterminate. That's right. Exterminate. And then the plunger went towards you, and you were plunged. Anyway, this was the first Doctor Who story filmed in color as part of the Paranormal Campaign. A number of Daleks were on display in 1965 Film Festival, also in Sydney, Australia. And there was also a coloring book about the movie for children. Dracula was in 1973, directed by Alan Gibson. Star Wars in 1977, and we know all about that. George Lucas. And Sean, do we have our guest with us? All right, well, that is wonderful. And we will take our break here in a minute. And we were going to go through Miles Davis and a few other people like Stevie Nicks. Did I ever tell you I used to wait tables with Stevie Nicks? But in any case, I did. But she don't know me from a bowl of Wheaties anymore. But stay tuned, please. We will be back after the news and a few other things. And look forward to having you here. And Rand Brenner will be here, which is a real treat after listening to me this time. And thanks so much. But don't go away, and thank you so much.